In this lesson, we're going to keep adding additional growth layers to our ornate element until we have everything revealing as we like it. All right, so here's where we left off. You can open up 21, grow ornate element. And so here's where we are, and we just need to come in now and continue working. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. Let's reveal it. So now let's work on this center curve. Now you'll notice we have an intersection here, but we're actually going to use a growing trick so we don't have to create any masks. So let's call this our first upper limb. And let's again just press G to grab our pen tool. Let's go to frame 1 and let's draw this limb out. So I'm talking about this limb here. And so we want to draw the main part of it first, which I usually try to make the longest part. So this part here. Okay, so just our usual drawing a path. And let's copy this stroke that we have. And let's make sure we set that brush size back to about 5. And let's check the animation on this because we're going to want to start this relatively early, but not quite that early. So we want to start it right about here. This is where the start frame needs to be. Actually, maybe one frame earlier. Okay, that's looking better. All right, so it's growing, 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 growing. Looks like it's timing nicely with the secondary or the primary limb. All right, so that's looking pretty good. And of course, we might need to come in here and move it away a little bit. And let's move this point so we make sure we're getting all of it. Okay, so that looks pretty good for that upper limb. So now let's go ahead and draw the other part of this upper limb. So I'm just going to duplicate this layer here. And let's just draw out this second part, so this second curve here. All right, looks good. So let's switch this to use mask 2. And again, we'll have to hit U and change the animation a little bit because it's obviously going to start growing right about here. So right before it hits, we need to set that key, and there we go. And we can have it end a little bit sooner so that it is more in tune with the rest of this animation. All right, looks good. We're not revealing anything. We're revealing a little something here, but I have a feeling it's going to go away as soon as we, well, actually, no, that's going to be an issue. So let's go back to that layer here, and let's move this just away, just a tiny bit. And now we remove that problem. So now we have this intersection, but if we animate this to grow as soon as it gets hit, we don't have to really worry about it. So let's animate this intersecting limb, and it's going to be the bottom part. Let's take a look at this. So let's just draw this out here. So we'll have this intersecting limb grow as soon as it gets hit, so we don't have to worry about it. So we'll copy our stroke. And again, we'll have to edit the keys a little bit. Let's take a look here. So we want to find it as soon as it hits. And then we want it to start drawing, so right there. And of course, we might need to change the path so that it's actually using a path instead of nothing. And since this is pretty short, I'm going to pull this keyframe in a little bit. All right, looks good. Let's test the stroke. All right, so we're missing a little bit. So we'll just come in here and pull this last point forward. There we go. Okay, so let's check that. Looking good. Well, actually, looks like it hits one frame too early. So we'll need to come in here. And actually, it looks like it's hitting correctly, so let's now duplicate this and create the top part of this limb here. So intersecting limb top. And this is going to be pretty simple. We just need to draw out this mask along these elements here. And I'm just going to reveal this all at the exact same time. So we can use a pretty large brush size for this. So let's set this to mask 2. And let's turn the stroke back on. So now we have this growing out. Nice. Of course, the stroke test, we don't have it wide enough, so let's increase our brush size quite a bit. Something large. Let's see how that changes our animation. Could probably offset it 1 frame. There we go. So we've got a small problem there. You can just animate that in. Then the next frame it's there. Next frame, next frame. And let's just pull this out a little bit. Okay, nice. So of course, if you want to take the time to go in and modify each of those strokes, I'm not going to stop you, but sometimes we can just use the brush size workaround to create a very large stroke and have it work for us. I just want to get rid of that edge there. So I just need to move this point out just a tiny bit. Nice. Okay, great. So we were able to create this top part as well as the intersecting edge, which looked like it could be a problem, but actually turned out not to be. So let's zoom out, hit 0 to check our motion. All right, looking nice. Everything's curling out very nicely. So we're getting closer and closer to finishing this. We've just got a few more limbs, and then we can animate these dots in an interesting way, and then we'll be done with this left tendril.